Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Uh, Historicity of Jesus, the last Adam. I added the word the last Adam because a couple of weeks ago, I think about 1 month ago, we discussed about the historicity of Adam. And in the Bible, we see that Jesus Christ is mentioned as the last Adam. It is important to see whether Jesus Christ is whether he was a historic person or not. So this is the title of one of the popular book in my mother tongue in India. It's in Malayalam. The title of the book is Christ and Krishna. They are not real. Christ and Krishna are not real, and it is written by one of the popular atheists in India. His name is Joseph Idamarag. So he wrote this book to prove that Christ is not a real person. And that's not a new argument. Over the centuries, last many centuries, a lot of atheists and anti-Christians taught and preached that Christ is not a real person. He's a fake story. A fake story prepared by some smart early Christians to promote their religion, Christianity, the new religion, in order to gain a lot of political, economic, and social achievement. That was an argument for a long time. Christ is not a real person. But things have changed recently. Even though a lot of atheists still believe that Christ was a fake story, the scholars in the atheistic circle, they do not have an option than accepting Christ as a real person. A lot of new atheists, especially the scholars like Bart Ehrman, they all accept Jesus Christ as a real historic person because there is more than sufficient, convincing, reliable historic evidence for the existence of Jesus Christ. So, unfortunately for them, unfortunately, they have to accept that Jesus Christ is a real historic person. But at the same time, a lot of atheistic people in different parts of the world uh, who is not exposed to this new scholarly findings in the atheistic world, they still believe that Jesus Christ is not a real person. So that's why we are going to discuss whether he is a atheistic person or not. So when we think about the historicity of Jesus Christ, any ancient person, we understand their historicity mainly through the writings, ancient books. Sometimes it's the books written by those people whom we are studying about, or sometimes it is the books written about them by other people, maybe his disciples or his friends or other people. So that's the main way we understand whether that particular person is a historic person or a real person or not. And in connection to kings and all, we have more evidences, more archaeological evidences than some of these books. Sometimes books are one of the historic evidence. Sometimes the emblems, national emblems, coins, money, these are some of the evidences for kings. But when someone is not a king, there is not many uh, evidences other than books. So when we think about Jesus Christ, we know that he was not an earthly king at that time, even though Christians believe that he is the king and he will be the king. When he was on earth during his incarnation, he was not a king. So the only evidence we have is the writings about Jesus Christ. And when we consider the writings, there is no way we can deny the historicity of Jesus Christ, because most of the historic people, ancient people, when we consider them, sometimes it is just one paragraph about them, or sometimes it is a portion of the books written by them, which is copied sometimes after 1,000 years. And some of the very popular ancient people, they have not written anything. One of the argument against Jesus Christ is he did not write anything. There is no book written by Jesus Christ, and that is true. But that is not an evidence against the history of Jesus Christ. If that is the case, if not writing a book is an evidence against Jesus Christ, then we'll have to believe that Socrates is not a historic person, because we do not have even one book written by Socrates. And I don't think that any person with a sound mind denies the historicity of Socrates. We know Socrates through the writings of his disciples. And if Socrates is real, Jesus Christ is more real than Socrates, because we have more writings about Jesus Christ than Socrates or any other person. And not just that, we have writings that are closer to his age about Jesus Christ. And not just his disciples. When we think about Socrates, mainly we know him mainly through the writings of his disciples. But when we think about Jesus Christ, we have abundance of writings about Jesus Christ. And we can divide the writings about Jesus Christ into mainly two categories. One is writings by Christians or his disciples, and the secondly, writings by non-Christians. And when we consider writings by Christians, again we can divide it into two. I will not go too much into that, because all of us are aware of the writings by Christians. So anyway, there are two categories of writings by Christians. The writings by his disciples lived with him, and we can find them in the Bible. That is one category. The second category is the writings of Christians known as apostolic fathers or early Christians, other than the writings we can find in Bible. And when we think about the writings by non-Christians, we can categorize it into two different groups. One is by Roman writers. The second one is by Jewish writers. Okay, let's see some of the Christian writings. When we think about Christian writings, I have seen a lot of people argue against these evidences. And I already mentioned, if you argue against the Christian writings because they are his disciples, you have to deny the existence of a lot of popular and famous ancient people, including Socrates and most of the kings. So we do not have an option than accepting these writings. So some of these writers: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, though they wrote biographies from birth to death of Jesus Christ. And if you check the other historic people, I don't know whether there is any information about any person in this manner. From birth to death, we have the biographies of Jesus Christ. everything he has done. Not everything, but a lot of important things he has done, he has said, and about his friends, his families, everything. And it's not just one biography, we have 4 biographies of Jesus Christ. And those are valid evidences according to historic studies. And they are from different background, tax collector, doctor, fisherman. These people wrote about Jesus Christ, their biography, his biography. And we see other writers like Paul, Peter, Jude, they also wrote about Jesus Christ. Paul is a religious leader, a scholar at that time, and people say that if he was living now, he had education which is kind of equivalent to 3 PhDs or something like that. So he was a highly educated scholar and a religious leader. And Peter, another fisherman, and Jude. So we have writings. James is another person, brother of Jesus Christ. So we have first-hand information about Jesus Christ through his disciples and his brother. And as I told, the second category is apostolic fathers. If we think about the writings of apostolic fathers, we have tens of thousands of pages written about Jesus Christ. More than anything else, no scholar in this world can deny these evidences. That's why recently I was listening to Bertram, and one of the popular and influential atheists of this time, he is saying that like we cannot deny because there is like if we consider the early writings of Jesus Christ, that may be like 100,000 or 1 million times more than the writings about other historic people from the ancient time. So there is no way they can deny these facts. So a lot of atheistic scholars now accept the historicity of Jesus Christ. The only thing they deny is the deity of Jesus Christ. Again, if we accept these writings, there is no way we can deny the deity of Jesus Christ. So, I don't know how to put it in the right way, but I have to tell that they are being hypocrites because since there is enough evidence, they are not able to deny the historicity of Jesus Christ, but at the same time, they are by label atheist, and because of that, they have to deny the content of these writings about Jesus Christ and deny the deity of Jesus Christ. I think if you are a sincere, a genuine scholar, you have no option other than accepting the historicity of Jesus Christ and the deity of Jesus Christ, because we have so much evidences. So now, as I mentioned, I am not going into detail about these writings because we all know about these writings. We all are familiar with these writings. Christians and non-Christians know about Matthew, Mark, and Luke and John, and most of us have read the Gospels, even if it is not the whole Gospel. Most of us have read even parts of Gospel, so we are familiar with these Christian writings. So we consider the non-Christian writings about Jesus Christ. And as I mentioned, we can categorize into 2, the Roman writings and Jewish writings. And we need to understand one thing. Both Romans and both Jewish people were against Christians and against Christ, because politically and in a religious manner, Christianity was at the enemy camp of both Romans and Jewish people. Romans were politically against Jesus and Christians because they thought Christians are going to gain popularity, and slowly they will take control of these people or those geographical areas, and because of that, Romans were against Christians. And Jewish people, they were against Christians and Christ because they thought Jesus Christ was a false prophet, and Christians are a breakaway cult from Judaism. So they were against Jesus Christ and Christians. So any writings by Romans and Christians shows the historicity of Jesus Christ, because it is from the enemy camp. You can deny the writings in the Bible and the writings of other Christians, saying that they are the stories made up by Christians to promote the new religion or promote about their new cult, but you cannot deny the writings of people in the enemy camp. And we are going to check some of those writings of Roman writers, witness of Roman writers. The first one is Tacitus. Tacitus wrote in his book, chapter 15, and in his book 15 and chapter 44. Okay, and Tacitus is, the historians think that he wrote this book between 180, 110 and 120. That is maybe like 70 or 80 years after the death of Jesus Christ. Okay, so it's not like a few hundred or few thousand years later. It's immediately after the death of Jesus Christ. So, as I mentioned, some of the writings about ancient historic people, we have their writings after 10,000 years, after 1,000 years, after 500 years, and all, like hundreds or 1,000 years later. But this writing is after, immediately after the death of Jesus Christ, 70 or 80 years. So we can easily assume that, without any confusion, assume that Tacitus might be a child when Jesus was around. So he has the first-hand information. So what he wrote, that's also important. What he wrote is very important. So you need to understand, again, keep in mind that this is from the enemy camp. And what did he write? Who was sentenced? He's writing about Jesus Christ. Who was sentenced to death by the procurator Pontius Pilate during the reign of Emperor Tiberius. This detestable superstition, which had been suppressed for a while, spread anew. Not only in Judea, where the evil had started, but also in Rome, where everything that is horrid and wicked in the world gathers and finds numerous followers. So when you read that, we can easily understand how much hatred Tacitus, the Roman writer, had about Christ and Christians. Some of the words he used: detestable superstition, the suppressed thing, evil, and he is comparing it with the horrid and wicked thing. So these are the explanations or the adjectives he has given to Christianity. So we can see how much hatred he has. So he is not trying to promote Christianity. He is not writing some fake stories about Jesus Christ to promote Christianity, because he is in the enemy camp. He hates Christianity. He hates Christ, and he is writing about Jesus Christ. And we see very clearly it fits in historically. What he has written about Jesus Christ. He is sentenced to death by Procurator Pontius Pilate during the reign of Emperor Tiberius. If you go to the Bible, we see that these words are true. So the words of Christians, the disciples of Christ, is not contradicting with the words of a hater of Christ and Christianity. What more evidence we can seek for the historicity of Jesus Christ? What more evidence we have about, or we don't have evidences that come closer to this about other historic persons. So if we deny Jesus Christ, historicity of Jesus Christ, we have to deny everything or everyone who lived more than 100 years old or 100 years ago, above. So this evidence, there is no way we can deny it. So, and these words of the hater of Christianity and Christ shows not only the historicity of Jesus Christ, it shows the historic accuracy of Bible. Because everything he told, the first words, there are three things he mentioned about Jesus Christ, which proves that Bible is historically accurate. It says that Jesus Christ was sentenced to death. It was by Pontius Pilate, and it was during the reign of Tiberius Caesar. Three historic truths. Tacitus is confirming that Bible is historically true, and Jesus is is a historic person. So that is Tacitus, number one. Second one, Seotonius. He is also lived, or he wrote this book around the same time, about AD 110 and between AD 110 and 120. He wrote a book, Life of Emperor Claudius. In that book, he mentioned about Jesus Christ. So this is the second Roman writer. And as I mentioned already, I want to repeat that. These are the haters of Christianity because of political reasons. And he wrote, Seotonius, Emperor Claudius expelled the Jews from Rome. We think that is in the late 40s, who instigated by Christus, never ceased to cause unrest. So here, another, it's not as clear, or we don't have too much information like how Tacitus wrote. Tacitus wrote a lot of historic facts there. But here we have some information regarding Jesus Christ from the writings of Seotonius. And he saw that, and it's not some, there are a couple of things we can see. Here it says that it was suppressed in late 40s, and that goes well with if we read the book of Acts of Apostles. We see that immediately after the death of Jesus Christ, which happened around AD 32 or 33, Christianity gained popularity, and next 15 to 20 years, Peter and Paul, and they all started sharing gospel, and thousands of people became Christians. And that's what we see here. In late 40s, Claudius expelled Jews from Rome. And we read all this history in Acts of Apostles. They were in Judea, Jerusalem, and Rome, and all the cities around that, Corinth and Antioch and Philippi, all these cities. These disciples of Jesus Christ went to and spread gospel. And that's what we see here. And we see the name of Jesus Christ again here. It was instigated by Christus. So he is proving that Jesus Christ is a historic person. And not just that, he is giving an approximate timeline about how Christianity gained popularity and who started Christianity. And some of the persecution early Christians first. It says that Emperor Claudius expelled the Jews from Rome. Actually, he used a word. There is a mistake there. It was not really Jews. In one way, it is Jews because early Christians, for some time, it was only Jewish people. So until Cornelius became a Christian. So until that, all the Christians were from Judaism. So in that way, it is true. But instead of Jews, it was actually Christians. So Emperor Claudius expelled Christians from Rome, and it was instigated by Christ. His name is mentioned there. So the next writing we see is Pliny or Pliny. We can, I don't know what is the accurate pronunciation. I heard both Pliny and Pliny. So one of it. So he was a Roman governor. And again, we need to understand that this is not like some illiterate person, uneducated person. He is a person highly educated and in authority, in government. He is a bureaucrat. He is the governor of Rome. And in his 10th collection of letters, and in letter 96, dated to AD 110, he wrote about Jesus Christ, and his writings goes like this: Christians, follower of a gross superstition, sing a hymn in honor of Christus as in honor of a god. So it proves very clearly that they were singing hymns. That goes back to Ephesians chapter 4. When they were filled in spirit, they started singing hymns. And so he is historically accurate about the practices of early Christians. And it says that they sing in honor of Christus as in honor of a god. So he clearly says that Pliny, the Roman governor, says that Christians from the beginning, from the first century, consider Jesus Christ as God. So any new atheistic scholar like Butterman, if he accepts these words of Roman governor, he cannot deny the fact that Christ is God. Because right from the beginning, he was God. And he was considered as God, and he was worshipped by his followers right from the first century. So what Butterman was trying to say recently was, oh, he was a historic person, but he was not considered as God. Later, after many centuries, Christians tried to make him God. That's the argument of Butterman or other atheistic scholars. But here we see very clearly that right from the beginning, Christians worshipped Jesus Christ. And it goes like this: they get up early in the morning before sunup, that they gather together and sing a song, that they took vows not to steal anything, not to embezzle, and not to commit fornication. And then, after singing their song to one Christus, as though he is the deity or a god, they partake of a meal, and an innocent one at that. So this is the writing of Pliny the governor. And it says the early practices of Christians. They sing, they gather in the morning and sing and take a vows regarding their Christian walk. There is no way we can deny this historic fact. If we accept evidences, we cannot deny. And if we deny Christ, we have to deny everyone before us. So next is Celsus in his book, The True Doctrine or True Word. Okay, so there is one thing regarding the writing of Celsus. We do not have the writing of Celsus with this name, True Doctrine or True Word. We do not have that. Then how do we know that he wrote a book with this title? Celsus wrote this book, True Doctrine, because there was a refutation, there was another book written to refute his work, and that name of the book is Contra Celsum, or in English we can translate it as Against Celsum. That's a book we have now. In that book, we read about what Celsus has written. Okay, and it goes like this: Jesus was brought up in secret and hired himself out as a workman in Egypt. And after having tried his hand at certain magical powers, he returned from there, and on account of those powers, gave himself the title of God. We see that uh, this guy also is against Christians and Jesus Christ, and he has a lot of misinformation or false information. He thought Jesus went to Egypt and learned magic, or maybe he meant black magic, and he tried that magic powers, and others considered us Jesus Christ. We don't agree with these statements regarding Jesus Christ because that is not true. We have written historical evidences, the biographies, 4 biographies of Jesus Christ, which does not mention any of these things. So we do not accept what he has written. But the thing is that he has written about Jesus Christ. So that shows that Jesus Christ is a real person, even though it is against. Again, these writings, I brought it to you because these are important. Why? Because these are the haters of Christ and Christians. The haters of Christ and Christians are writing about Jesus Christ. That shows that it is not a cooked up story to gain some political or economic or religious achievements. This shows that Jesus is a real historic person. Next person, Lucian. Lucian, uh, in his book Peregrinus, in section 11, Christians still worship the man who crucified in Palestine because he introduced a new cult into the world. Here also we see the hatred. He introduced Christianity as a new cult, not as a new religion, or not as a new way of thought or relationship with God, nothing. He considered it as a cult. But he is writing, Christians worship the man who was crucified in Palestine. It affirms the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It affirms the historicity of Jesus Christ. That means Christ is a real person and his death is real. And the biblical narration about the death of Jesus Christ is a historic fact. So I think I already gave 4 Roman writers about Jesus Christ. Next one is Mara bar Serapion, another Roman writer. So here, this is even interesting. Here he is writing about some of the persecution he faced, and he is comparing Socrates and Pythagoras with Jesus Christ. My wife, when before the first time when she read Bible, she thought Jesus Christ was, she used to think that Jesus Christ is a good teacher, and when she read Bible, she thought that Jesus Christ was a good teacher. He taught good things, and he did good things, and bad things happened to good people always, and Jesus Christ was put to death. So this guy Mara bar Serapion, his thoughts are kind of similar. He thought Socrates, Pythagoras, and Jesus Christ, they were good people, did good things, but bad things happened to them. And I'm not going to read the entire paragraph, but there is one sentence I have put it in bold. So it says that, what advantage did the Jews gain from executing their wise king? So we know that there was no other person who was considered, even though he was not the Jewish king at that time, who was considered by some people as a Jewish king, that was Jesus Christ. People tried to make him king. We read that in Gospels, and he went away from that. And after his crucifixion, that was the title written about him. He is the King of Jews. So many considered Jesus as the Jewish king. And here it says that what advantage did Jews gain from executing the wise king? So again, this affirms some of those historic facts. And it affirms the historicity of Jesus Christ, because there is no other person who was known as the King of Jews and executed. So, historicity of Jesus. Now, we will consider some of the Jewish writers. Again, Romans were against Christians and Christ because of political reason. Now we are considering Jewish people, again, haters of Jesus Christ and Christ because of religious reasons. First one is Josephus. Usually, when we consider the historicity of Jesus Christ, these are two popular names are Tacitus and Josephus. But we already saw, we already considered, I think, 5 or 6 people, 5 Roman writers, now a couple of Jewish writers. It is not just Josephus and Tacitus wrote about Jesus Christ. There are a lot more people. So in his 20-volume work called Jewish Antiquities, he has written about Jesus Christ 2 times, once in book 18 and one in book 20. Here, the first one is from book 18. At this time, there appeared Jesus, a wise man, if indeed one should call him a man, for he was the doer of startling deeds, a teacher of people who received the truth with pleasure. He gained a following both among Jews and among many Greek origin. He was the Messiah when Pilate, because of an accusation made by leading men among us, condemned him to the cross, who had loved his previously, did not cease to do so, for he appeared to them on the third day, living again, just as the divine prophets had spoken of these countless other wondrous things about him. And up until this very day, the tribe of Christians named after him has not died out. What more evidences we need about Jesus Christ, about the historicity of Jesus Christ, about the deity of Jesus Christ, about resurrection? Here it says that was his name, a man with the name Jesus. And if indeed one should call him a man. And it says that he was the Messiah. We know that in Gospels we read that he was called the Messiah. And another historic fact, he was executed by Pilate. We read that in Roman writings also. Now, in Jewish writing, we read the historic fact that affirms the historicity of biblical narration, says that Jesus was executed by Pilate. And it goes more details, again confirming the Bible. Why he was executed? Because of an accusation made by the leading men among us. That means the leading men among Jews. Confirms the Bible. We read in the Bible how was Jesus brought to these authorities to execute. They made accusations against him. The Jewish religious leaders made accusations against him and brought him to Pilate, and Pilate executed him. That's what we read here. And not just that, the next part is even more interesting. It says that it was condemned him to cross. Okay, so that also confirms the way he was executed. The next part is for he appeared to them on the third day, living again. Living again. It's not that he was appeared again, living. Some people say that Jesus Christ was not dead, he did not resurrect, he was just he lost his consciousness, or some like a different kind of explanation people tried to give to deny the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But here it is very clearly, it says that he appeared on the third day, which is confirming the Bible, and living again. That means he was resurrected. Very clearly it says that he was resurrected. And just as the divine prophet had spoken of these things. So Josephus, I love him. He is a hater of Jews, the Christians in the enemy camp, but writing about the historicity of Jesus Christ with his name, about his execution, who did that, and why he was executed, how he was executed, and about the resurrection. He was resurrected when on the third day, and according to the prophecies of prophets, confirming Bible, confirming the biblical narrations about death of Jesus Christ, his existence, his resurrection. What more we can ask for as an evidence? And in book 20 of Judges, and brought into the brother of Jesus, James, also called Christ. So it says that brother of James is Christ. Again, another biblical truth we can see here. Next, we don't have any more Jewish writing, but we have a lot of other writings by non-Christians. I did not go into all those details because if somebody is seeking the truth with a sincere heart, these evidences we just consider are more than enough. More than enough. So that's why even though most of the atheists, they deny the historicity of Jesus Christ, most of the atheistic scholars, they accept the existence of Jesus Christ. And we can accept the historicity of Jesus Christ. And if we accept the historicity of Jesus Christ, based on those writings, there is no way we can deny the deity of Jesus Christ. So Jesus Christ is a historic person, and he is the God incarnated man, Jesus Christ. So we can believe in the historicity of Jesus Christ. Hope it helped. And again, why we say all these things? We say this because he is a real person, and Bible says that he has died for us. We heard a lot about how he died, how he was executed, how he was resurrected, and why he did that. Bible says that it is for me. John 3:16 says that so that I will not perish, he was put to death. So if I believe in God, if I believe in Jesus Christ, I will be able to receive the eternal life as a gift from God. If any one of you do not have a personal relationship with God, there is no a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, there is no way, if you accept facts, you can deny Christ. So consider these truths, and if you think these things make sense, accept him as your personal savior. Invite him to your life. May God bless you
all. Thank you, Brother Sibin Sam, for that wonderful session on apologetics. Thank you. Wonderful. Now over to Brother Paraz for the questions and answers. Time for question and answers.
Yeah, okay. I've got a few questions for you here. Let me see. Okay, the first one asks, since Josephus is identified by critics as a Jewish historian, we are sided with the Romans, his writings have been modified by later scribes. How do you address these criticisms of Josephus?
Okay, there are two ways I want to address that. First of all, Josephus, as I mentioned, Josephus is not the only writer. Okay, we already presented at least 6 or 7 writings, non-Christian writings, and there is no way we can deny the Christian writings because, as I mentioned, if we deny the Christian writings, we cannot even accept Socrates as a historic person. Socrates is a fake story. Okay, if you say that Socrates is a fake story, I can agree that Christian writings are fake. First thing. Second thing, the other witnesses other than Josephus, I presented at least 5. We need to consider them. Okay, that's one thing. Second thing, if you say that Josephus's writings are corrupted and modified, what evidences you have to prove that? Who did that? Is there any clear information who did that other than a blanket statement or an umbrella term saying that his disciples are Christians? That doesn't make sense. You need to give clear information who did that, when was it done, and is there any, how do you know that it is corrupted? Because if you have to say that it is corrupted, you should provide the uncorrupted one. If there is an uncorrupted one, if there is no uncorrupted writing of Josephus, then you need to prove how you prove that, how you say that it is modified or corrupted. So unless we compare it with modified and unmodified, we cannot say that it is modified. So there is no unmodified one. And whoever modified it, if we consider the earlier Christians, they all went through a lot of persecution. All disciples, the 12 apostles, were murdered, and brutal murder. Consider Paul. He was like as I mentioned, he was like a highly educated. He was a religious leader. He was a very rich person. He was a Roman citizen, and he lost everything. They did not gain anything. All these people whom you say that they corrupted it, they lost everything in their life for the sake of in Christ or in the name of Christ. So why do you think they corrupted it? What is the motive? So that corruption story doesn't have any validity. It's not reliable. And even if it is reliable, okay, for a argument's sake, hypothetically, I'm saying it is corrupted. How about other writings? There are so many other writings. And as I mentioned, there are a lot more writings from other sources, which I did not include in this presentation because of lack of time. A lot more are there. At least 2 times more than what I presented is there, which I did not include. So you need to deny all those things and deny all the ancient people, including Socrates. I think that is a little too much. I don't think anybody would want to go that route. So that's not modified. That is truth. And Josephus testifies historicity of Jesus Christ, death of Jesus Christ, resurrection of Jesus Christ, deity of Jesus Christ.
Yep, makes sense. The next one asks, how do you address the fact that there are other religious figures who have claimed to be saviors or redeemers in various traditions, and what makes Jesus unique in this regard?
One thing. Okay. I agree that there are so many gods. Okay, so many gods. Even Bible talks about names of some of these gods, Baal and Ashura. There are different gods. And in Hinduism, they say that there are 33 million gods. Okay, and there is no one. Okay, first of all, there is no book like Bible. I think in some time back, I presented on the manuscriptual reliability of Bible, and I mentioned about how wonderfully and miraculously Bible was protected, and there is no other book like that is presented, and that proves that Bible is truth, and what is written in Bible is truth. Okay, that's one of my presupposition. So if I say why I believe in Christ, the reason is there is no God who came to save the sinners. Okay, any religion, if you take Islam, if you do these things, you will get to heaven. If you live a holy life, you will get to heaven. I mean, know that holy life is it's not a practical thing. We all are sinners, and we are born in sin. We are living in sin. All our thoughts, deeds, and action, everything is in sin. So, if according to Islam, nobody would be able to go to heaven. Okay, that's one thing. Second one, Hinduism. If you think about the incarnations of Lord Vishnu, why he came, took incarnation to bring an end to unrighteousness, kill all the evil people, and save the righteous people. And if that's a mandate, I will not be in heaven. I will not be saved. And none of you will be saved, because we all are sinners. Okay. Even Buddhism, there are eightfold. I forgot the word for that. 8 virtues. If you follow that 8 virtues, you will reach heaven. So it all requires you to be a holy person, and we know that that is impossible. And Christ is the only one came down to this earth to save the sinners. He gave his life in order to save me. He took my punishment. There is a punishment for sin, and that was death. And he took that punishment on the cross of Calvary instead of me in order to save me. And he killed himself. He gave himself to death as a punishment for sin, in order to free me from the punishment of sin, so that I will have eternal life. There is no one else like that. If you can show someone else like that, maybe I can consider, okay, I can have some rethinking.
Yep. Okay, so the next one asks, what is the significance of Jesus' life and teachings from a secular perspective? And how do we understand his impact on human history apart from religious beliefs?
Okay, apart from religious belief, see, one thing, if you just pure secular thing, he divided the history into 2, AD and BC, before Christ and Anno Domini. So now people try to change that, saying that the common era, before common era and after common era, but that's an attempt to corrupt the history. Nothing else we can say about that. But another thing, I don't consider Jesus as a religious person. Okay, I am a Christian, not as a religious Christian. I am a Christian because I follow Christ, and that's a major impact in the human history. He came down to save man. He came down to give us freedom from the consequence of punishment of sin. That's a major impact. There is no other impact. There are a lot of impacts as a ripple effect from that, or like as a like consequence of that, but there is no impact is important without that. It's like in a check leaf, if we write like a lot of zeros, that has value only if there is a 1 or a digit in front of all the zeros. So there may be a lot of zeros, there are a lot of impacts, but without this salvation impact, all those impacts are waste. There is no value to that. So this is the important aspect, that he gave me salvation, and we can give a lot of other impacts, but this is the most important, and that's not a religious one, that's a spiritual one. and that's an ultimate one.
Okay. The final question says, how do we evaluate claims of supernatural events and miracles associated with Jesus' life and teachings from a historical perspective?
See, evaluate a okay, we need to consider this is the place. Sometimes science has a contradiction with the religiosity or Bible. Okay, that's because we try to evaluate science. No, we try to evaluate events with the science. It's a historic event. Okay, we cannot explain it with science because supernatural science is something that measures natural things. So by definition, the word itself, it says that is supernatural. So we cannot evaluate those things with science. And when I presented about the scientific accuracy of Bible, that's what I mentioned. There are a lot of things science cannot measure. Science cannot measure my thought. Science cannot measure my emotion. Science can say that, oh, there is emotion, but it cannot measure. So with any scientific method, we cannot say that, oh, this is what this specific emotion. We can measure the body movements when we have certain emotions, but we cannot really predict what exact emotion is that using those scientific measures. Sometimes when we are happy, when we are angry, when we are stressful, the bodily, if we just rely on the body measurements, it's the same measurements. So science is good in what it can measure, but science cannot measure everything. So these things, wondrous things, supernatural things Jesus Christ did, and later in the history, even today, those things are happening. They are historic events. And how can we say that report a historic event? We can just report that it happened. We may not be able to give more explanation than that. There are a lot of things we can tell that, okay, this happened. Sometimes we cannot give explanation. If you say that there are a lot of things we still cannot, if, okay, in a pure scientific perspective, a lot of, okay, think Big Bang Theory. We don't really have an explanation how it happened. People, I don't accept Big Bang Theory, okay? So I'm just giving a hypothetical situation. So if you say that Big Bang Theory happened, there was a Big Bang happened, what they say is, they report it as a historic event happened in billions of years ago. They don't really explain from where that dust came into existence and how, what force made it come together to make a big body, and based on what force they started rotating that big body. It doesn't explain what energy caused the that big bang or the explosion. It just stayed it as a historic event. It happened. It is not able to explain all these things. Evolution also the same thing. They say that, oh, this thing, they give a timeline, this happened, this happened, this happened. A lot of things in right from the beginning. It says that in evolution, theory of evolution, these 6 basic elements came together to form amino acids that happened in sea. And we all know that water is the universal solvent, which everything falls in water, dissolves in water. That means the distance between the molecules increase when water is added. And here's what I found. According to theory of evolution, it goes opposite to the scientific explanation. Water being a solvent, everything should go away from each other. But according to theory of evolution, it came together to form amino acids. There is no explanation. So there are things, even people who accept these as scientific facts, they do not evaluate it scientifically. They present it as historic events. So supernatural things are beyond science. They are not natural. Only natural things can be measured by science. So these are supernatural. So they are beyond science. We can only report it as a historic event.
Thank you, Sivan, for answering all the questions.